Okay, go ahead.
Okay, test, test. 1, 2, 3, test. Test, 1, 2, 3, test.
It was connecting the sound there and not so I can find it. Okay. Oh, we got
2021 to order, and I will begin with our land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. I'd also ask that we please observe a moment of silence so that council staff and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we are trying to serve. Thank you. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Madam Clerk, please note that there was none. We'll move to the minutes. We have the minutes circulated from September the 7th, 2021 council meeting. Is there anybody have any comments? Sherry? So moved, seconded by Donna. All those in favor? Any business arising out of those minutes? Not seeing any, we will move immediately to our deputations. And we have the pleasant duty today to receive representatives from the Lakefield Rage Senior Men's Lacrosse Club. We're going to present them a certificate for a very significant accomplishment. But before we do that, gentlemen, if you want to come to the mic and just tell us a little bit about your great victory.
Yes, thanks. I'm Derek Croak. I started a team out here a couple of years ago now in the men's new senior C loop in Ontario, and we've done very well this year. Actually, the last time we went right to the finals and lost, which was disappointing, but we really built a good team this year to get out there and beat that other several teams in the league. And we really appreciate all the help around the city there, or the village out here. The restaurants, everybody had nothing but good things to say. I keep getting great emails about everything that went on out here that weekend. So I'd like to say thank you very much.
Well, that's great.
My name's John Croak. I was the captain of the Lakefield Rage this year. I was born and raised in Ennismore as well. So I'm very fortunate to grow up in such a sporting community here and have the support of all of you. I think we're very fortunate. The arena in Ennismore is surrounded by parks. The arena in Lakefield surrounded by parks and near water. A lot of the time other towns come in and they say how fortunate we are to have that. So thank you all for making it such a great sporting community, and appreciate the support we got this year as well.
Well, thank you very much. And so we're going to present a certificate. I'm just going to read it while we're sitting here so the public can hear it. To the Lakefield Rage, congratulations on winning the 2021 Ontario Lacrosse Association Senior C Championship. On behalf of the Council of the Township of Selwyn, we congratulate you on this achievement. So I'm going to ask the council to put on their masks. We'll go out in the front, and gentlemen, come forward, and we're going to take a group picture.
Yep, works for me.
But hold up your sticks.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm Mike's youngest, or one of his youngest. Yeah, same. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
So are you well and
I will, and I. I've heard that before. Yeah. I recognize you as well. I like it too. Good seeing everyone. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Men's league golf. Yes, that's right. Okay. I'll let them know. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, we now have we'll move on with the second deputation, which I believe is online. We'll just wait till our clerk returns. think that might be Patricia that just showed up on the screen. Hi there.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody.
Hi,
I'm-
and welcome. You're going to be making a presentation on the Peterborough Utilities Group.
I am, and I'm sorry, I had to travel out of town, so I'm literally sitting in my car. So this is actually one of the perks of COVID, that everybody's got some electronic way to connect in. So I'm happy not to have to miss this meeting with you guys. So I'm going to share my screen with you and quickly show you. So it should, oh, I hope it shows my screen. I'm very, there we go, this one. This is the one I want. Perfect. So generally, I like to come into the counselors to kind of give them an idea of what's going on with your drinking water system, which is what Peterborough Utilities Group has been doing with the Township of Selwyn. And so we do the Woodland Acres and the Lakefield plant. So every year, again, COVID aside, last year we didn't make it in, but we like to come in and kind of give counselors an overview of how the drinking water system is working, which is very important for you as counselors when you're making decisions with respect to the drinking water system budget. And just so, again, when customers or consumers find you at farmers market or on the street, you sort of might have a general idea of how things are running, and as well as who to direct them to if you have any questions. So that's my general, what I'm trying to accomplish here today. And again, I am open for questions at the end. If any questions and anything I can't answer, I will happily get back to you the next day. So this to start is from 2020. So it's been difficult for us to get into the meeting. So this is why it's a little later than normal. When I'm talking about all my numbers and stats, it is on the year 2020. So again, the owner of your drinking water system is the Township of Selwyn, and under contract, Peterborough Utilities Group, so its new name is Pug Services Corp, actually operates and maintains the drinking water system on behalf of the owner. This is a requirement to have a contract if it's a third party that's doing your drinking water system. And Peterborough Utilities has actually been operating the system since September of 2001. And recently, I believe the contract has been extended to December 31st, 2023. So you'll have me for another couple of years doing these presentations. So a little bit about our staff. So the Lakefield water plant itself is staffed by 2 full staff members, but they also have a complement of 21 other staff members that work and are available to assist at the water plant if need be. This includes electricians as well as water and wastewater staff. There are 15 staff that are actually water distribution alone staff, as well as 22.2, I love that 2 number, staff that provide support to those water people. That could be administrative support, supervisors, purchasing, human resources, health and safety. So those people all do provide services for the township on the water system. So the township does have some licensing. They classify all the systems. So I've included all of the classifications, including the 2 wastewater on this, but the water treatment plant is a class 2. The distribution system is also a class 2. The wastewater and collection treatment is a class 1. Woodland Acres is also classified as a 1 for water and distribution of wastewater. The classification levels change based on the complexities of the system, which is all determined by the Ministry of the Environment. So they look at the system, chemicals used, what your raw water source are, and they make a determination on the class of the system. The class of the system then thereby determines the classifications of the operator licenses that are required to run that system. So the more complex the system becomes, the more training and licenses the operators need to have. So a little bit about the Lakefield water treatment plant. So obviously the raw water is from the Otonabee River, and actually I believe it may actually be a different, so it's just on the cusp there. So if you know where the water treatment plant is by the harbor, that's exactly where the intake is, just out into the middle of that little bay there. It provides a low lift pumping system, some chemical coagulation, and it also uses flocculation and sedimentation in order to treat water. They also do dual media filtration as well as disinfection with chlorine. The plant in the summer months also uses a granular activated carbon basin for taste and odors during the summer months, which is probably still running because of the warm summer that we've had, and the raw water itself is still pretty warm. Aluminum sulfate is used as a coagulant, which is a binding agent, which will take some of the bacteria and larger clumps out of the water prior to disinfection. So again, chlorine, sodium hypochlorite is used for primary disinfection as well as secondary disinfection. And secondary disinfection is just as it's leaving the plant, so that you know, so we clean it primarily in the plant, and then just before it's leaving to go, they give it another little bit of disinfection so it maintains the chlorine levels in the distribution systems. There are other treatment aids that are used within the process as well. So every plant is rated. The current plant for the Lakefield is just over 3,000 cubic meters per day. And the secondary regulation of the permit to take water from your source water is over 2,500 liters per minute. So they're very similar. They're just in different, they speak different languages between the two permits, but they actually equal each other. In 2020, this is a number that most counselors like. They want to know what the capacity of the plant is at. So in 2020, the water plant treated just over 500,000 liters of raw water, which is 41% of the plant capacity. So that number is important for you as counselors when you're looking at development, or is our plant capable of more people moving in, more housing, more infrastructure? Then you kind of have a baseline every year of what the capacity is. So that's the important number that I find most counselors, that's what they want to know when they're working through all of their permits. This is a brief overview of the distribution system. Very, very simplified. You can see that there's the source water, you have a water plant, the water thereby runs after it's treated into the distribution system. We have a standpipe and a Lakefield water tank, which are used to maintain pressure as well as storage within the system. And there is a booster station up at Rolliston. So that's kind of the main, that's all of the components that are in the water distribution system in Lakefield. Reporting. So every year there are required reports. These reports are provincially mandated under different regulations. I was usually generally just do a brief overview for these reports. You may not see all of the reports, but they are available to you. I think there is only one that you're required to see by law. The rest are required to be delivered or posted externally on your website, which they are. The first one is an annual report under Ontario Regulation 170. It has to be completed every year by February 28th, and it provides a general overview of the drinking water system. So this is one that's posted on your external website every year, and it shows all of the test results for drinking water, the BACT, the E. coli, and any sort of other parameters that are required. Lead is one of them that is required under the drinking water report. They're posted on this annually. It also, any adverse results or corrective actions. So again, this must be available to the customer. So someone has chosen to have it available on your website, but it's also available if a customer emails in and wants a copy. It's total public information on this. And it's just it's a great information for customers if they would like to know what's in the water. The next report is the actual report that you would see every year. By March of each year, you would see it come through as probably an information item into the council meeting. So it does annual flows, and so it will tell you what your flow rates are, as well as if you are meeting or exceeding any of your permit to take waters, or your plant is over production. So this is that 41% number. So this one is the important one in that respect. So this is the one that you're going to see as counselors every year by March 31st. Additional drinking water is a permit to take water report. This is an online report now where we provide daily raw water flows 365 days a year of the plant. And it's communicated to the owner as well as to the provincial government by February 28th every year. So the big one that I do is the DWQMS. So this standard itself is all encompassing and is in part of your drinking water license, but it's requiring you as the owner to have a accredited operating authority, which Peterborough Utilities is. We've been in the operating authority since 2010, which was the first year you could be an operating authority under the DWQMS. Hug was also involved in the initial working group for the standard, so we have a really good knowledge of what the intent and the ideas were, as well as what the standard is requiring us to do. So cost-effective measures, we have integrated the DWQMS with the Peterborough and the Selwyn systems are integrated. That way we are doing things once and only keeping one records. Like we'll do different parts. If it's the same for both systems, we'll just do it once. We'll have one standard operating procedure for both systems. It's just sort of a little more efficient way to do it for us. The important sections for councillors under the DWQMS is the risk assessment that we complete annually. So we look at the entire drinking water system and assign risks to any items or critical control points that could be detrimental to the drinking water. We rank it and then we try to mitigate any of those risks as we go on. We do auditing, both internal and external, every year. The last accreditation audit by an outside body was October of last year. It was a very successful audit all in all, and I realized that our auditor every year, he likes coming into Peterborough to audit so much that he actually moved to Peterborough from Markham last year because he liked to be coming in all the time for our audits. So we do have a great couple of systems and the towns nearby that people really like to come and live in. So that's a little side note on that one. We do emergency planning every year. So we'll do a desktop study to test out some of our emergency scenarios. We're also members of something called ONWARN, which is a mutual aid agreement between water and wastewater systems. So Peterborough is a member of this, and thereby it extends to Selwyn. So we use that if there are parts or services that we are unable to get or capture in time to complete a job. Other members sometimes have pumps or pieces or people that can do these, and it's just a way of it's a way of sharing services amongst water people. It's very similar to a fire mutual aid agreement. The other thing that's important is the management review, which is a review every year of all of the system, of all of the DWQMS system, which is what I'm presenting to you next, which is the important sort of end of circle for communications with the owners. So the management review is completed every 12 months. Usually we like to complete it in the first quarter of a calendar year, thereby all sort of scenarios and things that have happened in the past year are very close in our mind, so we don't forget anything, and we really want to address anything that hasn't been working very quickly. So it's reviewed by top management of Peterborough Utilities. So that would be the vice president, water treatment plant managers, operators, and myself reviewing the system. We identify any deficiencies and assign action items to staff in order to rectify any of these systems. And we provide a roll-up report of all these activities with the drinking water system, and we provide it to the owner. So what you're going to see next is a sort of a quick executive summary of what the management review was for 2020. The full report has been received by Janice. Probably, I actually don't know when I sent it to you, Janice, but if anybody wants a copy of that report, please let me know and I can send it off to you quite easily. So every calendar year we do this. We look at all 20 elements of the DWQMS. The last one was performed in March 2021, and the next is the review. So the first item they always look at is regulatory non-compliant. Have we been compliant with all the legs and regs that are applicable to the drinking water system? As well as the Ministry of the Environment does a inspection, usually kind of rolls between 18 months. So both the Woodland Acres and the Lakefield they started their Ministry of the Environment inspection in late 2020, and it was completed in February 2021. So I did include the results here for you. Again, they received 100% compliance rating. So there were no deficiencies found by the Ministry of the Environment with respects to our permits and licensing. In 2020, there were also no adverse water quality results in Lakefield or the Woodland Acres system. We monitor key points of the water treatment system, including the chlorination, filtration, and pressures. We have established parameters, and in 2020, none of those critical limits were exceeded. And we manage critical processes with the various standard operating procedures that are in place. So Lakefield has critical control procedures of a loss of coagulant, generator failure, high filter turbidity, and primary and disinfections. So for each one of those, there is an SOP in place that tells operators what the high limits, low limits are, any SCADA set points, and what to do if it doesn't work. Like if you're hitting a critical control point, generally we have alarms set prior to that, and then it gives an operator a chance to correct it before it becomes a regulatory issue. So those are all documented procedures in the Lakefield system. The Woodland Acres has a supply of drinking water, so water pressure in the Woodland Acres systems. As well, in 2020, we added a new critical control point of generator failure. So we added a new process and procedure that's going to identify what staff, how they maintain the generator, as well as what to do if the generator itself fails. Risk assessment is completed in the fall of every year. And I sort of alluded to this earlier, where we look at all the system and we assign a risk rating to everything and determine how we can mitigate those risks, either through training, procedures, stopgap measures, or different technology. So we look at them all and prioritize them. Currently, staff is developing a procedure for emerging blue-green algae concern. So we started developing this procedure as the risk assessment in 2020. And lo and behold, it was actually mandated under the new licenses that were issued in 2021 to actually have a procedure. So it was nice to kind of have it ahead of the game. Every year we audit. So I do an internal audit in September. I just completed the one for 2021 last week. We have external audits, and there were 0 non-conformance issues for them. Emergency response testing, we do a desktop study. This past year, we actually reviewed all of our COVID pandemic responses. So we used the opportunity of the emergency that was given to us by the pandemic and reviewed all of our procedures and processes that were altered or anything we could have done better with respect to that as an emergency. We look at key performances of the operations like raw water flow, temperature, pH, color, and alkalinity. We look at all of those and determine if there's any fluctuations or anything that we should be looking at moving forward. All the results have been consistent with each previous years. We also look at what the customers are telling us. They're calling in and they're complaining. We want to know what they're complaining about. We actually don't get a lot of water complaints. In 2020, there were 3. And they were all related to water discoloration, which can happen when you're flushing or hydrant flushing or some general maintenance. And there was a water leak that needed to be addressed. Every year we make recommendations to the township regarding infrastructure, anything that we can see with respect to the water system. And we ask the township to consider them as part of their capital budget and to see so that you have an awareness of what the needs are within the water system as given to you by the operating authority. So people who see the water system on a daily basis and any infrastructure needs. We update the operational plan, which is like the detail of how we address and work through all of the requirements of the DWQMS. Now, this plan was last revised December 2019, and I think I actually had Jenna sign off an update last week, and I did not. So there actually is a new one that was updated in 2021. This is when it gets weird when I'm talking about a year ago stuff versus stuff I know I just did yesterday. So operational plan, we do tend to update 1 to 2 times, once every other year, depending on what needs are. We didn't receive any staff suggestions for 2020, and there were no action items that had not been addressed from the 2019 management review. So as an overall statement, I just like to say that the Lakefield and the Woodland drinking water systems are being operated in management in accordance with all the Ministry of Environment's regulatory protocol. And again, we would hope that if you have any questions or you receive questions from the constituents, you are absolutely, we are open to answering questions and trying to make people aware of the drinking water systems and any of the issues that they're having with them. At this time, I will ask if there are any questions that I can answer.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. I will look at my colleagues and see if there are any questions. I don't see any. That was a very thorough
Fair enough.
and enlightening report, so we very much appreciate it. And we appreciate the fact that you've had to deliver this report from your automobile.
I
So,
don't mind doing it. It's fine.
no, we appreciate your efforts. So I
Thank
think
you.
we need a motion to receive. Okay, thank you, Anita and Sherry. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, colleagues, we'll move on to our third presentation now. This is also going to be virtual, and that's from Steve Taylor from BTE Engineering. This is to deal with the pedestrian multi-use path on the causeway. So we'll just wait until technology catches up and we have our presentation. Are we all set?
I don't see Steve logged in.
Okay, are we, who else is joining you?
Steve Taylor, I'm just wondering if he was made a panelist.
Okay, Steve will be right on. There he is.
Am I there? Okay, I thought I might have been in the waiting room.
There you go. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll welcome and I'll leave the floor to you and please proceed.
Okay, I'm just checking it. Am I running the presentation or is it going to be on the screen? I can do either.
I think they,
Yeah, do you mind running it?
I don't mind running it at all.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. I'm just doing a check. Can you see my screen?
it's good.
Perfect. We're off and running. So myself and Peter Nielsen are here tonight to answer any questions. And I've got Darcy Dillon, who's the assistant project manager. And tonight's meeting is just a brief council on the design development of the projects that are being delivered for the causeway. And I've got a series of slides. I go through the project introduction, current recommendations, and the next steps we're going to proceed with the projects. So to just give a background for the project, this slide illustrates there's actually 3 projects being delivered for the county. I'm going to focus on project 2 tonight. But the first is a rehabilitation of the Yankee line. And that project is actually tenders have closed. Construction will be proceeding. So you'll see works underway this fall. Second project is the rehabilitation of the causeway. And the third project will be the rehabilitation of the Chemung Bridge. And it's scheduled for the causeway for next year and the bridge in the next year. So tonight's presentation is really to focus on the causeway. So the causeway project was completed nearly a decade ago. So 2013 EA we completed, and we have implemented portions of it as it's been going along, including an advanced surcharge contract, which is consolidating along the embankments. This is a causeway that was constructed in 1950. Interesting, replaced the world's longest floating bridge, a neat location. The design that we're carrying forward will include street planning across the causeway, opportunities for active transportation, which I'm going to discuss tonight, surface water drainage improvements, a new platform, riding service, improvements to the Rotary parking lot at the west side of the causeway, and the provision of utility conduits buried for future improvements. It may be high-speed internet through the causeway. So the design development that we completed to date is predicated on reviewing what the cross-section will be. So the slide in front of you shows the EA improvements that were predicated on us connecting to the existing bridge. So it included a sidewalk on the north side of the causeway and cyclists on a shared lane going westbound, and a path going eastbound, paved shoulder. When it got to the bridge, the cyclists had a reduced space for the shoulder on the bridge. And then once it got east of the bridge, actually the shoulder disappeared. It was back to a shared lane as it entered an urban cross-section. This cross-section was developed thinking that we'd make use of the existing bridge sidewalk on the north side. Current assignment, we've done a value engineering review, trying to improve the performance. But we've revisited the decision early on to have the sidewalk on the north side to connect to the bridge, because the current assignment includes both the bridge widening and the causeway, and it gives an opportunity to meld the two together at the same time. And doing so, we can possibly change the space for the active transportation from the north side to the south side. And doing that, it kind of follows the complete streets approach, where we're trying to provide separate space for pedestrian cyclists, providing greater safety, and allows to take advantage of the surcharge that we've just placed. So this slide shows the causeway as it stands today. That's a big, wide open area. That's just an opportunity waiting to be used. It would make it a more context-sensitive design solution. So the value engineering cross-section that we've recommended would be to make use of that space on the south side, constructing a multi-use pathway. So both cyclists and pedestrians would be on that shared space. It would be offset from the road and vehicular lane traffic. And it would be continued across the bridge. And definitely safer. It provides separate space for pedestrians and cyclists that would continue east of the bridge and into the urban section into Bridge North. So this is a view from a project that we completed in Belleville a couple years ago. Multi-use path beside the vehicular lanes, separate space, lighting in the boulevard between the two, and entering on the bridge. Next slide just shows a view from the other direction, but that is the multi-use path across the bridge. We take advantage of the work we're doing for the rehab of the bridge to actually widen and increase the cantilever on the bridge on both sides. Right now, we're expecting to get an extra meter of space that we could do with make use for the widened space for the multi-use path. Ultimately, when this becomes a 4-lane cross-section, again, it would be an urban cross-section across the causeway, matching generally what we've got to the east side of it today. The multi-use path would be again on the south side of the causeway, be widened out to the edge, and be right along the waterfront. Again, separate space for pedestrians and cyclists. And this just gives you a view on the bridge between the original design and the recommended one that we're carrying forward to council tonight. We're also taking it forward to the county council tomorrow, but this is just a report back on the design development. As I was talking about the east side of the bridge, today it's an urban cross-section with curbs, and this would be using the existing platform, the multi-use path, again connecting to Bridge North, all on the south side of the causeway. Illumination for both the road and the path. So main differences between the original EA and the design that we're bringing forward to council to recommend is the original one had the north side sidewalk, was available all year round. It would require salts and maintenance through the winter. There would be an issue with the snow storage between the road and the sidewalk, so there would be additional maintenance for clearing the sidewalk. Cyclists share the road platform with vehicles, which isn't safe. And we originally developed it to tie into the sidewalk on the Chaumont Bridge, which is no longer a constraint. The alternative design uses the widened rehabilitated bridge, got a wider surface. Uses a shared pathway on the surcharge embankment and safer for pedestrians and cyclists. And the last point is really important. It eliminates active transportation having to cross the road for trips from Bridge North to the Rotary Park. The original EA design would have had pedestrians and cyclists crossing in Bridge North to get to the north side of the road. If they wanted to go to the park, they would have to cross again at the other side of the causeway. This plan means no crossings of the road. You could come out and do the evening walk from Bridge North, make it all the way to the Rotary Park, turn around, come back, and never have to cross the county road. So the benefits of the design: one, it avoids impacting the Enbridge gas main that's on the north side of the causeway. It was an area we'd have to mitigate for the installation of the lighting and for the original design. Reduce maintenance for the sidewalk and winter de-icing for the township. Allows the flexibility for the multi-use path to be closed during the winter. Any municipality do that. Follows this complete streets approach with a separate dedicated space for pedestrians and cyclists. Allows a somewhat better water quality because you don't have as large an area for de-icing for entering the lake, and keeps all the pedestrian cyclists to the natural attractions which are on the south side of the causeway. And finally, just utilizes the causeway embankment surcharge for some time, which maybe a decade or two. It would show a useful space. And it would allow an opportunity for something along that side of the causeway to make it look waterfront feature. We could put, I'm not the landscape architect, but they could look at things that could be put in that area, but could be some very durable armor stone blocks to break up the path. The path could have some curvilinear elements around some features. You could leave space for a storyboard that we might want to introduce along the causeway. There's opportunities. And the last thing as part of the design project is I want to describe that we've reviewed and are recommending some accelerated repairs related to the bridge. And these are shots for inspection I've taken in the last couple of weeks, but there has been significant scour action under the bridge abutments. You can see mostly on the left-hand photo, the original slope paving that was to protect underneath the bridge from erosion and scour. It's almost all gone. It's exposed the very soft, fine material, kind of the underbelly of the bridge that's really susceptible to water action. It can wash away very quickly. It's a recommended repair. It could be completed when the bridge work's done in a couple of years, but a recommendation that there's a safety element to these repairs, and a large storm event could remove the material that's underneath the abutment, and in the worst case, it would end up leading to closure of the road in the worst scenario. And I've seen it occur on other bridges. So our recommendation is we'd like to accelerate these repairs. These repairs were coming anyways, but it would be to put 2021, this year, larger stone in front of the abutments to stop any further deterioration under the abutments. This gives a snapshot. There had been some previous repairs on one of the quarters of the bridge, and it's been a stable surface since they were completed. And we want to include these on the other three quadrants, as well as underneath the end spans of the bridge. So next steps, I know as long as we have township and county support, we'd like to initiate the accelerated repairs under the bridge. Yankee Line rehab will be completed this fall. It will end just at the west end of the causeway. We will be having a public information center to show the final design. Curve Lake First Nation, we have briefed them on the changes that are being recommended, and we're looking at ways to have a consultation with the community, either newsletter or a live meeting, to be followed by next year with the causeway rehab, which will include roadworks, and then in 2023 with the bridge rehab, and it will include lane closures as we're doing work on the bridge. as well as accelerated repairs in 2021. There'll be some limited road closures expected to avoid the peak hours for access down to the bridge. And with that, Peter and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Anita?
This isn't a question, it's just a comment with regards to the alternative design. I think it's a really great idea. I know we've seen various pictures and ideas over the years, so I think this particular solution is a very good one. It'll be well used.
Thank you. Good.
Thank you through you to both gentlemen. The idea of a pedestrian walkway across the causeway is long overdue. I think it's great. However, with the past situation with the no trespass, the fishing, what are your thoughts and what are your plans now that we've created a really smooth surface for people to fish off the causeway? Would you continue with signage, or do you figure it would self-police with the increased traffic of people using it? Fencing, bylaw? Stop me when I get warm.
Well, Peter might have more to add, but I mean, it would be a public space along the causeway. There can be no fishing signs to restrict them to areas that you want to focus them to. The parking area for pedestrians and visitors would be down at the Rotary Park. But the biggest issue probably is with the pathway comes potential for garbage or debris. It may lead to having garbage cans if it becomes an issue, but that goes hand in hand with making it a public space. Peter?
Thanks, Steve. Through the chair, Steve, maybe you could flip back to slide 11.
Okay.
That shows the design of the multi-use path adjacent to the roadway. A barrier between vehicles. The previous slide there, Steve. Number 11. That's it. Yeah. So we would expect to have a barrier between vehicles and the multi-use path, but also a barrier between the edge of the water to physically block access. And with the Clean Marine Program, yes, trespassing was no trespassing provisions was established. So that would be something that would have to be, like I said, reviewed again with County Council for I guess a more active enforcement signage program to control that activity along the shoreline.
Thank you. Go ahead, Donna.
Yes, through you. Thank you to you both for the presentation. I'm looking at slide 11 right now, and it looks lovely, but I'm a little concerned about the grass portions, and I assume it would be the township responsible for keeping that cut. Is that a correct assumption?
I don't think we're proposing it to be grass. We were thinking there'd be a concrete area where the lighting is between the path and the road. And then it would just be a granular surface on the right-hand side of the slide to the edge of the embankment.
So no grass.
No grass.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, there's opportunities the township can direct us. I mean, this is one that had more decorative poles. Those are in play. We haven't made any decisions on the lighting. The poles could have arms for, this one's got the flower baskets. Could have outlets for Christmas lights and those things. Those are all things that are possible, but we just haven't got to those details yet.
Okay, I don't want to speak for staff, and there doesn't seem to be anybody here that would be in the grass cutting business, but I think it would be a lot of work to keep up cutting that grass and keep it looking like that. And also looks like there would be weed eating. So I think would you be putting landscaping cloth underneath the gravel so we wouldn't have a weed issue?
So I just
That does that. I'm
I
not,
pulled up the section to show that I think that it would be granular. And I'll go back to it's hard packed stone for 10 meters below this layer. I don't know if grass would grow here, but the intent wasn't, unless we're directed otherwise, the thought was it's just going to be a path over top of this type of material.
I think that that's a good idea. And I had one other question, and I thought I had read it in here, but I can't seem to find it. I just wanted to ask about Rotary Park, and maybe that isn't even in your plans. I had seen a plan at one time, and it may have been our community improvement plan, whereby a parking curb was put across the whole front of the park at the edge of the road. So, and that certainly would not work down there because there's so much traffic and you couldn't just direct traffic in one way and out the other way. So I don't know if that's part of your plan or if that's some other body of work.
So the project will end at that intersection and at Rotary Park. So cyclists will end through the park and then come out to the intersection if they want to cross the other side of the street. But the shoreline improvements of the park right now is not part of the project. It's just
Okay. And there'll be no pavement at Rotary? That's not part of this project?
currently it's just the road project. Unless, Peter, do you want to?
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, in one of your initial slides, it's noted as paving the Rotary Park area. With respect to the traffic movement in and out of the Rotary Park, it's a busy spot. There's a lot of vehicles pulling boat trailers, et cetera. So we don't want to intentionally restrict movement through there. So we could provide some level of separation between the road and the park with a concrete rumble strip platform, just to delineate the difference between the road itself and the park, the parking lot at Rotary Park. There's ways to delineate parking areas. Pavement markings is another option. So that's a detail we'll look at once we start the detailed design process.
I'm not necessarily promoting pavement. I was just asking. And this little separation that you're talking about, can it be driven over?
That's correct. It would be a flat concrete island that would be level with an asphalt parking area, or it could just be a simple line painting to delineate the separation between the traveled road and the parking lot. So there's a lot of options we can look at.
I just know it wouldn't work if there was anything raised because there's so much traffic there. And like you said, trucks with trailers and boats, and they're in the water and out of the water. And if we had any kind of separation from the road that was raised, I don't think it would work.
Agreed. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, through you. It is mentioning in the alternative design that it will be closed during the winter. So looking at the picture you've got up on the screen now, depending on what kind of snowfall we get, we could end up with a lot of drifting. Have we got an idea how we're going to deal with that if we end up with large amounts of snow?
Well, the intent, and I go find this slide, is that the higher TCBs could be removed and there'd be a concrete little island between the road and the path. The road itself would be elevated from the lake. It's our typical rural highway or rural freeway design where we elevate the road. Snow drifting would fall off the road and it would be down on the lake. So it should blow pretty clear on the top without having the current TCB there to capture it.
Okay. And I recognize that you're talking right now about the causeway, but once someone traverses it going either way, they need a place to cross. So is that going to be included in this, or is this another phase?
Once they get across the causeway,
Yeah.
we'll take this all the way into Bridge North to Ward Street, the improvements. So that will bring the multi-use path into the village. And on the other end, the path will end at the park.
Right. So if we're putting it on the south side and someone is taking that path towards Ennismore and they want to go to the sip and dip, what do? Just take their chances and look for breaks in traffic?
Well, they could go down to the intersection would be where we'd like cyclists and pedestrians across. I know it's a little bit of a walk from the sip and dip, but that would be the safest plot. But today, I think you can walk from the sip and dip across to the Rotary Park anywhere. It wouldn't be prohibited, but we would like it down at the intersection.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Just before I let you go, I had just a couple questions of my own. So the relocation to the south side, your intent would be to have it stay that way probably for maybe 20 years or so. But if you are going to eventually create another active or two more active automobile lanes, then that would have to be narrowed. Is that correct?
Yeah, it would move it. I had another slide, but this would get rebuilt and put over here.
So, but it would still stay on the south side.
It would still stay on the south side.
It wouldn't be as wide. Okay. This is part of a project that is in part funded by ICP, part funded by the county, and part funded by the town. And so this portion, which was originally thought of as a sidewalk, and which would be the responsibility of the township. So our share into this project would fund that part of the project. Are you envisioning that this multi-path way would be something that's the responsibility of the township, or is it something the responsibility jointly of the county and the township?
From a cost perspective, Pete may add to this, but the two variations we've costed are almost identical in price. You can treat them as equal. We avoid the more expensive protection of gas main on the north side that was required for the lighting and the sidewalk.
Okay, so
But
this is no more expensive than if the original plan of putting just a sidewalk in on the north side.
correct.
Okay. And well, I don't know if you refer to it as emergency repairs, but the earlier repairs to the bridge, is that covered? And Peter might be able to answer this one. Is that covered under the budget of the overall project, or would that end up being an incremental increase to the budget?
Through the chair, we have to do a more detailed analysis with respect to costs. Once the detailed design has been, I guess, more finalized than it is, it's more conceptual right now than final. Then BT Engineering can crunch the numbers, and we'll be able to report in more detail. But work that is required to be completed underneath the bridge, it absolutely must happen, regardless of funding. It's a significant deficiency that could compromise the safety of the structure if the erosion is allowed to continue.
The one thing I would make as a suggestion, because I know you're going to present this to County Council tomorrow, is to make the point that in the point earlier that the option that you're presenting is equivalent in cost to the original option. I think councilors are going to be interested to know that. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. I think we all look forward to that work actually happening, and that that being in place. And if I understood correctly, that would be a 2022 project. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's next year that we would see that actually built. Okay. Motion to receive, Jerry and Anita. All those in favor? Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, have a good evening. Colleagues, we have one more delegation. This one is in person, and it's Robin Jenkins. Welcome, Robin. Sorry for the delay. We're running a little behind. If you want to come up to the microphone, you can take your mask off while you're speaking.
Hi, I'm Robin. Nice to meet all of you. Hi, Nina. How are you? Okay, so I'm here because, okay, so I guess I'll give you a little bit of backstory. I've never done this before, so I'll just give you a little bit of background. My name's Robin and I own Lakefield Flowers and Gifts in Lakefield. I recently purchased the 44 Bridge Street Old Stone Mill House. I'm sure all of you are aware. I went into this project thinking that because it was zoned commercial, I could go ahead and move my business in and start working. That's not the case because of the change of use, which I wasn't aware of at the time. So at the pre-consultation meeting, I was told I needed to have a site plan done, bring the building up to code, have traffic studies done, water drainage report, implement a parking lot, and take out the 2 entrances on Bridge Street. So once I had done the traffic report and the water drainage report and done my site plan, I and had all the drawings done by the by Christopher Tawakowski there. I submitted my site plan application, and whenever I received it back, I had several items that had to be done before I could open. One of them, the most important, I guess, would be the parking lot. So I had gotten quotes for a gravel parking lot, and the site plan came back and said that I had to do a paved parking lot, which was almost 4 times the cost. So I am, I guess, here asking for a minor variance on that bylaw or that standard of having to pave parking lots right now. Number 1, it's too expensive. I can't afford it. Number 2, I don't think it matches the aesthetic of the building. And I honestly don't think it's really needed. I'm okay with, you know, a paved walkways up to the building for wheelchair accessibility, but I really don't want to pave it, to be honest with you. The other thing is the entrances on Bridge Street. I'm okay with removing the one, but I will need to keep the other one. I know that there was issues with visibility, but there's commercial properties right beside mine that would have worse visibility than that entrance, and it would be strictly for my flower deliveries. I can't do flower deliveries carting the flowers across the property, especially in winter. At my flower shop now, the delivery driver pulls up 5 feet from the door. We have to wrap everything, double wrap in the winter, and it just, I wouldn't be able to operate without that entrance there. And that's kind of a major thing, but I think the bigger picture here is for me, that I'm a little disappointed at the fact that I've been having to, I don't feel that I was ever kind of told about all of the requirements, plus all of the costs associated with everything. And especially with this traffic study that was required of me, you know, that's kind of data that should be known to the township about implementing that parking area on Clementi Street. I mean, Kingdon Timber Mart was right down the street. And whenever I got my traffic study back from the engineering firm, they said there was little to no impact on normal traffic operation on Clementi and Bridge Street. And I think that this is kind of information that should have been known already. And the fact that I was asked to pay for this, you know, I am a small business owner. I own a flower shop. I'm not building a Walmart. I'm expanding to just, you know, grow my business a little bit. And it's just kind of shocking, all of the costs and everything that's kind of been associated. Like even for Peterborough Public Works, just to look at my site plan was $2,000 or $1,700. What, you know what I mean? So it's just thing after thing after thing. And aside from the parking lot, I just think that it should be more kind of black and white as to like, you know, you have this kind of zoning, you want to do this, this is the steps, this is the cost. And because it's almost been like a scavenger hunt to figure it all out. And I've been talking to other business people in Lakefield and the area, and they have all the exact same story. They get to the part of the site plan, and it's just like everybody quits because it's so expensive to move forward, as opposed to, I wasn't told like, you know what, I understand that you can't afford the parking lot. Let's make a plan to do better, or let's make a plan to maybe make this happen for you. Right. I spent all this money to make this building nice, to operate my business, and I can't move forward now. So it's disappointing. And especially when everyone else around, it kind of has the same story, saying, you know, they want to move forward and do this, but it's always no, 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 no. It's not, I'm not being helped forward. It's no's all around. So the parking lot is just kind of one small part of it. And I think it's, you know, the bigger picture here is that I just don't feel that I've been supported through this journey to grow this business and make it, you know, something bigger and better. Yeah, so that's kind of what I have to say.
Thank you. Rob, did you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so again, I guess to give you a bit of a sense of the process as it's gone forward, I can recall distinctly speaking with Robin before she purchased the property, and I was as forthright as I could be given the information that I have. I did advise very clearly that this was a change of use and it would require a building permit, and that it was a function of the development of the property that there would be a need to certainly speak with the County of Peterborough. They are the road authority that the property is currently accessed via. They would likely have some issues with the proximity of the entrances to the intersection. And of course, it's only natural, of course, that, you know, if you're building a business, you know, on a property that's currently being used as a dwelling, that there would be needs in terms of developing the site to accommodate the patrons that are hopefully going to attend the property. And there's also a need to ensure that, you know, deliveries can take place in a way that's safe and consistent with, you know, reasonable standards. So yeah, as Robin noted, we had a pre-consultation meeting, and the County of Peterborough did make some requirements and requests for traffic studies, which are pretty typical. And of course, you know, we were provided with very, very detailed site plans, and those were circulated, and ultimately that resulted in, you know, my sending a letter to Robin advising that there were a number of things that needed to be done in addition to what's been noted. And these are all typical processes, and, you know, it's iterative, right? So, you know, we learn about, you know, the number of parking spaces that are required when we understand and appreciate, you know, the scope of what's being proposed, how much of the property is going to be developed, how much of the house is going to be used for a commercial purpose, are there additions proposed? All these things inform how the property gets developed. So, you know, we came to conclude that in this case, there was a need for 12 parking spaces, 2 of which are required to be handicap spaces, accessible spaces. Of course, all this information is also available to the designers and to anybody who's, you know, who's purchasing a commercial property. We do have a lot of guidance on our website. Yeah, so in the end, our standard, which we just reviewed recently, and which has been in place for quite a number of years, is, you know, in urban environments, parking lots need to be surfaced, and, you know, there's a reason for that. There's a number of things, of course, that we're trying to achieve, in addition to, you know, a consistent appearance. You know, we want developments in urban areas to look like they're urban developments. It's a consistent standard that's typical in any small town, city. You know, we want we want the spaces to be accessible to people with mobility impairments. And we also want them to be delineated so that people know how the spaces are to be used. So, you know, we've debated these over time. We've concluded that, you know, the right thing to do is just to have spaces that are surfaced for the reasons that I've noted. We've applied this standard for decades. And, to change it in this context would, I think, send the wrong message, certainly to those who have adopted the standard and developed their properties in a way that's consistent with it, right? So, my recommendation is that, it's unfortunate that there may be an issue with the funds available to do it, but in the end, we want the property to be developed in a way that meets a minimum standard. We're not asking for a standard that's above what we think is a minimum standard that we believe should be achieved in an urban context. So.
Thank you, Rob. Kelly?
I just find it really unfortunate. She purchased the property for a huge amount of money and she's done a tremendous job with her and her crew. And she can't open at the building currently because of especially the issue of the parking lot. And I understand about the rules and the regulations and urban standards and that sort of thing, but is there any way at all that we can give her a reprieve even for 6 months so she can get her business up and going and with the proviso that 6 months down the road or whatever that she has to put in the pavement as opposed to having to stay closed.
Well, that's again, in the end, I mean, the zoning bylaw requires that a parking area be created with sufficient parking to accommodate the needs of the business. Our site plan guidelines dictate, the shape and size and spacing and surface. Council certainly has the authority to say that, in this context, we believe that a hybrid that, it's, creating the parking lot and having a protracted period before the surface gets put on it, you have that authority, right? So that's something you could direct to be done.
Yeah.
Thank you. Through you. Congratulations on the purchase and best of luck to you with the flower shop. However, we sat in this very chamber last term, Andy excluded, and fought tooth and nail with Rob and Jeanette in certain situations regarding paving, either for or against, mostly against. And we just came up with a plan where the urban versus the rural that we just signed off on. This is clearly urban in Lakefield. We've got another development going on the other side of town. They know they need to pay. You can imagine if we decided, okay, this one's okay, that one's not, this one's okay. We can, I can't say publicly right now, but it's just, it's got to be a standard. And I think we've determined that standard is urban and the rural is the rural area, leave it alone. So I can't see how there's a way out of this right now. You do have an agent?
Like
Somebody representing you to deal with all this?
no,
Or you're doing it on your own?
yeah.
Good. Yeah, I can't support not paving it. I think it's got to be paved.
Sure.
Thank you, through you. I echo my colleagues. You've done a great job on that building and kudos to you for taking it on. I have a question. I would like to know, Rob, would the fact that the building's designated heritage suggest that paving might be frowned upon? And another way of putting that question is, does paving obviate in any way the heritage designation?
No, there are numerous examples of heritage designated properties, institutional commercial properties that have paved parking spaces. In my opinion, whether the parking lot's paved or gravel really doesn't really impact on the heritage attributes of the property. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
John?
Yes, through you. Thank you so much for your presentation, Robin. And I know you do beautiful work. I've seen many of your arrangements And you've taken on a challenge and you've made the property beautiful. And I personally agree with you that paving is not really conducive to that setting. But we've talked to the planner and there would only be one other material that could possibly be used, and it's more expensive because as we've all talked to Rob and we want to help you if we can. But I'm just not sure how, because we keep coming up against brick walls. Now, Rob, you did say that we could possibly do a hybrid. What did you mean by that? It would, even if we could do something temporary, like pave accessible and loading zone, and then in a reasonable period of time that would be established, if she could pave some more, would that be a possibility?
Yeah, so I was just responding to it, the notion that perhaps we find some way to allow for the property or the owner to create a parking lot that is gravel for a finite period of time, after which time the properties to be asphalted, or the parking lots to be asphalted. I mean, it's awkward. It's certainly not typical, but and I mean, the goals we're trying to achieve are, should be achieved at the outset. But if council wants to explore something, a bit different, I guess, and to find a way to get, the property open, I don't know, what would work in that context. It's something I guess we'd have to consider, in terms of the implications. But it's something that I guess I was responding to the notion that council does have the authority to direct that we do something different, right, than what is typical. I just point to the fact that we've had the debate. It's no secret. I mean, our guidelines very, very specifically say that in an urban context, if you're going to be, well, every commercial property needs to provide parking for its patrons. And in an urban context, those parking spaces need to be serviced, right? It's not ambiguous. It's clear cut, and it's clearly available to the general public in our guidelines. And certainly the designer in this context, DM Wells, was aware, and the information is available to them as it is to any other person that visits our website. So yeah. In any event, the design itself is just came to us in a way that was not, it's not consistent with, the minimum standards that we apply. And I guess I'm just advocating for, maintaining that. That's the approach that we've asked, everybody for decades to accomplish. And it's, I think it would just send the wrong message if we didn't insist on it in this context as well.
So then I think I have to agree with you that it would have to be paved eventually, but is there any way that we could help her move forward for a finite, like you say, period of time without doing the paving? I don't know if it would cost her more in the long run to put gravel in and then she'd have to pave it. I don't know about those things. But is there any way that we could help her in the short term with the ultimate goal that it be a paid parking lot?
Yeah, we could develop a site plan agreement that would speak to a delay in putting the surface in place. That is something that is achievable. Yeah. Yeah.
So do we have to make a motion, or would we just direct you and Jennifer to?
Donna, before we do anything, I'd like to speak.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, Robin, thank you for coming, and congratulations on your entrepreneurial initiative and what you're doing there. You really described three very separate and distinct issues, all of which we really should talk about for a minute, and because there's different genesis for them. You're an entrepreneur that is in horticulture, and you're trying to do a development, and the development process has become so complex in this province that it's very difficult. If you asked me to grow flowers, it would be an utter disaster. And so it's a very challenging environment, but there's really three things. One is, I think and others feel the same way. There are a set of rules that are established primarily by the province that governs development. And it's fair to say, you know what, I think those rules are fill in the blank. But the reality is, as a township, we're required to execute the planning process in accordance with those rules. And we've had discussions, I know Sherry and I have had discussions, and we've had discussions with the provincial government on certain ones where we're uncomfortable with. And part of what you're running into is that. The second one is the issue of what we refer to as our pre-consultation and the information that we give. I think we've done a fair amount of work as a council on trying to make sure that all of our potential developers, from very small to the very large, that they know everything in advance of what they're going to be faced. The challenge is, and Rob spoke to it, is you're not always going to know absolutely. So if you're asked to do a study, it isn't the study that is the thing that you need to do. It's what the study reveals. And the challenge, I think, for Rob and for our planners is, until they see the results of the study, it's really challenging for them to say, this is what you're going to have to do because of the study.
Right.
And so that's the second component. And one of the things, and I'm just going to suggest it, and I don't know, the deputy mayor may feel differently, that it may be on that part about how things are communicated and how we do that part, is to visit our business development committee, to have a conversation. There's a number of entrepreneurs that sit on that along with Sherry and myself. And I think that would be a useful exercise, not just for yourself. I guess I'm trying to intrude a little bit on all of your obligations, but I think it would be a useful conversation to hear about your experience. Part of that too gets complicated. We have different jurisdictions. I know to the average person, it probably seems really ludicrous that on one side of your property, it's one government that is the authority over the road, and on the other side of your property, it's a different authority. But that's the reality. Arterial roads like Queen Street, Bridge Street are the responsibility of the county, and the smaller roads are but anyways. And then the third part here is the tougher part, and that's trying to deviate away from something that's established. You're right in pointing out that, well, this exists. One of the rules of development, of course, is that if something existed 20 years ago and it wasn't against the rules and we changed the rules, you don't have to go back. You're grandfathered in. So it's quite likely you could say, well, look at that one. That's clearly, but that it works, that it's what the rule is in place going forward. I want to see you succeed. There would nothing that would make me happier than to see you succeed in your business enterprise. It's very difficult for me, and I think for my colleagues, once you start going down the road where council overrules, or council says we will not follow our own rules, because we, as Jerry pointed out, just established that rule, then you have the challenges. Yeah, it makes sense on this one, but how about the next one, or how about the next one? And I know from your perspective, that's not, you want to get a business off the ground. That's your interest. And so perhaps, Donna, rather than having a formal motion at this point, maybe we could ask that there be a conversation take place to see if there's anything that can be done. But from my own perspective, I'm going to be very honest with you. I have great difficulty in overriding a set of rules that we just barely put in place.
Right.
That's not to say I don't have a lot of sympathy or that I want to see you succeed. But if there's any hope for something to happen, if Rob has a conversation, but I just want to be forthright with you. A solution that comes back to me that says, don't follow your own rules, is one that I would have a lot of challenge with.
And I completely understand that, and I agree with having a standard. I think though that every situation is slightly different, especially with the designation of this property and what I want to do with it. And I agree that there should be, black and white rules and it should be followed, but there's always going to be special situations where I think your alternatives will have to be put into place. Like, for example, this. I never expected 12 space parking lot. I never expected that. And again, it doesn't match my building. Any new build, I totally understand, right? Because it's a brand new build, this building's been there for 200 years. And I just want something that matches my building and that I can afford, and that's not going to put me out of business before I'm even in business. It's too much money. The paving is just astronomical. Like the least quote I got was $80,000, and that was for a year from now. Dream Brothers can do it now, but it's 160 grand. You know what I mean? So it's like, and to be honest, like with the mortgage that I got, I had to do a business plan, and they gave me my mortgage based on the business plan, and that I would be open. I don't know if they'll renew it now if I'm not, open.
So why don't I suggest this to my colleagues? I'll have a discussion with Rob. Rob will come back in 2 weeks with a report, but I just want to be clear. His report may say, I can't do anything about it.
Right.
But that would be Rob and yourself to have a discussion. Maybe there's a way under the design so that there's only 9 spots that's necessary. So less than, I don't know. I haven't had the discussions with Rob, but I don't want to put out false hopes if we had that discussion, because it could come back and Rob says, I explored these 4 different ways. At the end of the day, it doesn't work. We need to abide by that. Because I don't want to put any false hopes out there. Yes, Jerry.
Thank you. Through you, would the onus not be on Wills to present to Rob another plan rather than Rob working on a plan to try and make it work?
I was
would
thinking
think-
more of an iterative.
Either or, but I don't think the
process.
onus falls on our staff to try and, when you've got a reputable company like Wills who didn't say anything about paving for some reason. And I think Wills should be able to do the work and Rob should be able to approve it or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But
whatever.
Rob, no.
Yeah, I don't dispute. But I just saying, let's have the conversation, come back, but I don't want to put out false hopes, because they can take a look at it and come back to council and say, that's it. That's the only way that you can abide by the rules. So, Rob, would you be comfortable if Will's tried to come up with another option or had a discussion about another option?
Well, certainly. Again, what we would want to do, or what I've been guided to do by the documents that council's approved, is to find a solution that's consistent with the goals that we have set in place, right? So, and when we speak to concrete, pavers, asphalt, and we would also consider permeable pavements, but those are typically more expensive, right? So I don't think it's the solution.
Permeable, that's like the parking lots they did at Trent. That's
so they allow.
Yeah,
for-
it would seem that
but
would be more expensive.
It would be more expensive, yeah. So, but yeah, obviously, I'm always, in a position to listen, and if we can achieve, the goals that we've set out in a different way, then yeah, we can consider that.
Okay, so, colleagues, you want to try that, or we can? Oh, okay.
I just think we need to do whatever we can so that she can get up and running, and it's a showpiece in the village, and I think she deserves to be open.
So we'll have Rob come back, but I'm just making my own position clear up front. It's very similar to Councillor Herron's. We need to abide by the rules that we have. If we can find a way, for instance, to have less parking because there's something that can be done in the plan that Wills can do that drops the requirement from 12 to 10, well, that's going to save you some money. Or if there's some other way that we can do it. But my own view is, let's have a conversation. We're back here in 2 weeks, I think. But again, I know I'm repeating myself, and my apologies. I don't want to put any false hopes out there. I'm one member of council. I'm at my colleague's direction. Comfortable with that? Okay.
Through you. You know, again, we've set the rules. Now we're trying to bend the rules to try and help somebody out. And I get it. I own a small business. I understand the struggles. However, during the due diligence portion of the purchase, which again, you don't know what's going to hit. You've got a reputable firm that didn't say a word about paving in an urban area. I mean, come on. And again, through no fault of yours, because you don't know, but those guys know better. And then we just put these rules into place and now we're trying to usurp them. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Every Tom, Dick and Harry is going to come waltzing on in here saying, hey, can you give me 6 months? All right, we'll give you 6 months. Oh, scrapers, can't do it now. And something else came up. Okay, take another 6 months. We've got rules that we have fought for and we've argued with in these chambers, like I said before. And we've established this rule, urban versus rural. Here's urban. You couldn't be any more urban than where she is. And God love you, I feel for you. I get it. However, the due diligence, the representation, I think could have been a little stronger. And for us to usurp our own rules that we made, to me is ridiculous.
But every Tom, Dick and Harry isn't starting or moving a business into a heritage building.
Okay, we could,
Either.
yeah. Okay, anyways. Donna, sure.
I would be in favor of giving them 2 weeks to have a conversation.
So with Sherry, so, okay, so we didn't need, but just be clear, Councillor Heron, in his view, is, I suspect, shared by all of us about sticking to the rules. I think the variation here is just taking a couple of weeks, and it's not a discussion about how we break the rules. It's a discussion if there's some other parameter that can change that could obviate it being as onerous condition as it is now. Where it's not about trying to relieve the condition,
Right.
because we want pavement in an urban area. It's whether there's anything else we can do that can obviate the size and the scope of what you have to do. That's what the nature of the conversation, and I agree with Jerry. It's Will's that you're working with, right?
Yeah.
Should be able to come up with something. But so, and then we'll come back. But like I said, the report could say there isn't anything you can do.
Because that's what the difference in the opening or not.
Okay, colleagues, that's what we will do if somebody's willing to make a motion to that effect. Okay, Anita and Donna, all those in favor, carried. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And a move to receive the presentation. Okay, Anita and Donna, all those in favor. You moved it. Okay, third. Seconded by Anita. All those in favor. Sorry, folks. Okay. We will now take a 5-minute break since we've been here for an hour and a half. Okay, we are back in session. And well, I'll wait till Madam Clerk is back and ask if there's any questions. Madam Clerk, are there any questions?
Sorry, there were no questions, Andy.
Thank you. Thank
Sorry
you.
about that. Thank you.
Okay, we will, we'll move on then with the municipal officers and staff reports. And we have the rooming house regulatory bylaw, which we had a public meeting with, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Or might have been a month ago, I can't remember, is back. And Rob, is there any differences or changes or anything?
No, Mr. Chair, this is a report, kind of a culminating report that kind of describes the journey that has taken us to the point now where we have a final draft of the rooming house bylaw and the licensing bylaw, both of which haven't changed at all from what was presented to council on the 7th at our public meeting. And I'm simply asking that we move forward and pass both bylaws and begin the process of licensing rooming houses.
Okay, Alex, is there any questions? Yeah.
I'm sure it's in the report here somewhere, but I know you talked about existing ones and new ones, but how, if there's someone that's running an illegal rooming house, is it kind of a complaint driven process? And that's how you figure out, you go to the owner of that property?
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, we would absolutely rely on the neighborhood to alert us to any activities that are, that they believe might not be, above board, and we would, we would investigate and determine whether or not it's a boarding house, and if it was, then we would have these, these tools to help us address the issue.
Any other questions? Thank you. Secretary? Carrie? All those in favor? Carried. So that will go to the bylaw section. Okay, our second report is on the council communicator, which is a very work in progress even tonight.
Yes, even this evening, right? So we are at that time again this year where we develop the council communicator, which is a newsletter that gets mailed out to all property owners within the township. This is, as all years, a collaborative effort with staff members and of course council doing their pieces as well. I do want to just have a special thank you to Megan, who had a big part in this project as well. COVID certainly has had its challenges on every aspect of our lives, but even as simple as the council communicator, it was a challenge in terms of finding photographs that could fill the pages that show a lot of council's efforts and works throughout the year. Photos often, as we all know, say 1,000 words, but it was difficult to find those to fill the piece. But I just welcome any feedback that council may have. The intention is that once we have our front cover photo finalized, a copy of the front cover will go to council for review, following which we're hopeful to have everything mailed out to residents early October.
Thank you. Colleagues? Yes, sure.
Thank you, through you. I've already spoken to you, Tanya. I think you've done a great job on the piece. I believe that there are many residents who look forward to receiving it, find out what's gone on over the year, maybe especially this year, because a lot of them were cooped up in their homes. And I've already passed on my my comments where there were changes that had to be made and some of the typos.
Yeah, thank you.
But thank you. Thank you to you and the team.
I just wanted to thank Tanya and her team as well. And even all that work trying to coordinate a time for a photograph that takes a lot of time, and it's appreciated.
And then the weather doesn't cooperate,
No.
so can't change that, right?
Right.
Gary.
Through you, and I spoke to Tanya earlier today, and I see Tanya's point, but regarding the photo about the roto spot, It struck me that, this is a disaster and it's about good things. Tanya mentioned too in the article, it's a good news story that the community got together and we're helping out. I just wonder about those 21 employees there, those who work there, when, their friends, their buddies, the owners that have lost, their life's work. Is that a picture that we want in there? And I mean, if you guys say it's a good news story and all that, I just don't know if they need to be reminded of that coming in their mailbox either. That would be my concern.
Sure.
I'll leave it for you guys to discuss. You know how I feel.
I think this is one of the biggest fires I think that has happened in our township. And there were a lot of people that might have heard about it. And as Tanya said, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I think it should be in there. And hopefully we don't have any more pictures like it in the future.
Yeah.
I agree with keeping the picture in there as well. It's an opportunity. It provides an opportunity for if there's people out there that want to help in any way, or to even be mindful of the tragedy of devastation of a fire such as that. So I don't have a problem with the picture being in there. And otherwise, I think the communicator is great. I've already passed my my typo corrections along as well.
Yes, Donna?
I can understand Jerry's point of view, but I also think that I know one of the owners and I don't think he would be sensitive to that. But I also think it points out the danger and the severity that our firefighters put themselves in on not a regular basis, thankfully, but it does happen.
Thank you. I just wanted to add a comment to echo appreciation for the work that's done. I know this is a major project that's undertaken, and I agree with Sherry. I think a lot of our residents look forward to this and to provide information, and so just well done. I don't have any copy editing or spelling since I can do neither, and would only make matters worse if I tried. So I will leave that to others. So thank you. So we need, so what you're going to do is insert a couple of new photographs.
That's
and then
correct.
Circulate it back to us.
Yeah.
Right?
So we have two options that we took today, and I will provide that to council either later this evening or tomorrow. Following that, we'll just keep an eye on the weather. I know that you guys have left 3:45 tomorrow open. I'm assuming, okay, maybe that's changed.
We had it scheduled at 3:45, and then we said we couldn't do it because of the.
Yeah, so chances are we're not going to be able to have that photo because I think it's pretty 90% chance of rain. So it's probably not going to happen. And if council's happy with the two options that we have, then we just move forward with that. So that'll discussion, I'll send something to council for review, and then we can see if council's not happy, then we can look at another option.
Okay, so I'm just a little confused here because you're holding that mural option open until tomorrow morning is what you're saying?
I'm not sure that that's an option any longer for all of council. So perhaps we'll just strike that.
So we'll just leave that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, we need a motion to receive that report. Okay, Anita and Donna, all those in favor? Carried. Our third report is from Lane. I'm not sure if Lane's here, the manager or the budget amendment report. Lane, are you in the netherworld out there somewhere?
Yes, you, Mr. Chair. I am here. The report's really just a housekeeping report, budget amendment number 3, and as noted in the attachment, there'll be a fourth amendment coming forward once we get some more details on Water Street and our digitization project. But this really is just a housekeeping report for council.
Okay. Thank you. I was just going to ask a question about it because one of the budget or one of the budget item amendments is that joint project we're going to do with a compensation review, and I just had a question, a more general question, and maybe it's Janice that wants to answer it. We're experiencing for us as a township, a significant amount of staff turnover that we haven't seen in some time. And I'm just wondering if Janice could speak to that. Is there something that's creating that? Is there something specific to us? Is it something that employers generally are experiencing right now? Janice, I don't know if you want to speak to the kind of turnover that we faced as a corporation.
Sure, I can definitely speak to that. And I think we have touched on it in the past couple of months at meetings a couple of times. But for sure, for us, we certainly have had more turnover than what we normally would have. I think a big part of it, and it's not just us, it's across all sectors. I think it's been an impact of COVID, and there's been a lot of discussion around it. Businesses are having trouble finding employees. There's just not as many people wanting to work for whatever reason, or they're wanting to work in a different way, in a different place, considering more work-life balance, pressures of the job, that sort of thing. So COVID has really had a big impact on the workforce across all sectors, I would say. And we certainly have seen that with some of the recruitments we've undertaken, and certainly even trying to find summer students for some of our positions, it was a real challenge. Certainly we have folks who are at retirement age. We all know that. So that's having an impact on the number of folks leaving our employment or planning to leave our employment. We've also had a number of new positions. And I think that's where we've seen we have technical positions that require qualified people in very high demand areas of our service. So, we're competing for a limited supply of applicants with other municipalities. And, for sure, we, as a smaller municipality, we don't tend to offer the same level of compensation that some other municipalities can. So that does impact our ability to attract folks. So there's that factor as well. Of course, we're a small organization, so in terms of opportunities for upward mobility, sometimes those opportunities are pretty limited, and there are opportunities available in other sectors. And I think those opportunities, again, given the whole impact of COVID, there's a lot of opportunities out there, and maybe those opportunities again fit the aspirations that people have for their career, with where they want to live, where they want to work, how they want to work. And that sort of thing. So, and again, with some of those other opportunities, of course, they're in organizations that again are able to pay at higher rates of compensation than we are. So, again, that's certainly attractive for folks where those types of opportunities fit their career goals and their aspirations in terms of where and how they want to work and that work-life balance. So it's a combination of factors. But yes, we've seen it across the corporation in all of our departments, I'd say.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on those reports? We need a motion to approve those amendments. Sherry, second by Anita. All those in favor? Carried. We now have the consent items. Does anybody want a consent item pulled? Yes. A and B, yeah. Anybody else want a consent item pulled? Yes, Don?
Sorry. 6, correspondence number 4.
6.4, which is okay. Good. So we'll start. Is that it? Yep. Okay. 5A, which is the Clear Bag Program.
Yeah, I just want to thank the staff for putting together this report. And I had a call earlier today. Actually, Jerry had a call from the same person. He noticed a lot of the opaque bags. Yeah, so that's the dark bags along in his neighborhood and stuff like that. And so he called Jerry and had a conversation, and he called me. And I like the idea that there's going to be oops stickers put on. Now this person is going to be either watching this live or will be going to the YouTube channel later. But I think it's important to note that there will be oops stickers put on. Now I'm just wondering if they, so currently if there's opaque bags, do the drivers take note of the addresses and inform the township? Or will the drivers, the garbage truck drivers, just wait until the 27th to put the stickers on the opaque garbage bags?
No, we will stand by.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I think Hillary was going to respond to that. Hillary, are you? We can't hear you, hon. She said, just give me a sec. She's just getting mic'd up.
Can you hear us, Hillary?
She's just trying to get connected, Mr. Chair.
Can anyone hear me now?
Yep.
Oh, we can hear you, Hillary.
Go ahead.
Yes. Every once in a while, Zoom decides to not like any of my speakers on the computer or my headphones. So yes, I can speak to that question. Right now, the collectors are still picking up those opaque garbage bags. And what they have been doing since September 1st has been leaving behind door hangers, which included some information about the Clear Bag program and the date of September 1st being the mandatory date. We've allowed that transition period for people to get those door hangers, get the next box of clear bags, and transition over. We do still see some opaque garbage bags in the township. However, our curbside compliance stats are pretty great, and they continue to increase since September 1st. So going forward with those OOPS stickers, it will be an OOPS staff are aware of this OOPS sticker, and we will be prepared for individuals to call, and we can deal with them on a individual basis about what to do with their OOPS garbage bags.
Okay, so with regards to those door hangers that are being placed currently up until the 27th, especially out in the rural areas, are the garbage truck drivers actually going right up to the house? Because in the rural areas, it might be a really long driveway, and it would just, I'm just wondering, do the drivers actually go right up to the door? So if there's 20 rural properties side by side and they're all using the opaque bags, do the garbage drivers actually go right up to the house?
So to answer that question, they are door hangers, but they were just placed on the garbage bin or a nearby mailbox. If those two options were not easy for the drivers, they would flag that residence and then follow up with us, and then we can follow up delivering one of those door hangers and a clear bag to get them started.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sure.
I have a question, Hillary. Once we stop picking up on the 27th, the opaque bags, will they still be received at the landfill? Opaque bags?
Yes, so September 27th, if they have the OOPS sticker and they were not picked up at curbside, they will still be allowed to drop them off at the landfill. But going forward at the landfill on the 27th, anyone coming in requires to have clear garbage bags.
I'm sorry, I'm
Okay, so
confused.
I think Sherry's question is, you get a note sticker, it's after the 27th, you've got the garbage there. You're
Can
saying
they
that
take it?
you can't take it to the landfill, you're gonna have to transfer it into a clear garbage bag.
No, so luckily our curbside collectors are very compliant with us, and we will just, anyone that has the oops sticker for the following week's collection date, as long as this next set of bags are in clear garbage bags, they will pick up both black or opaque bags and those other clear bags. So it's kind of going to be a double pickup for those individuals that have those oops stickers.
Okay, so tomorrow is garbage day. For me, so if I had an opaque bag there and it got a sticker on it, I would keep that bag till the following week. I could put it out, it'll get picked up so long as the next week's garbage is in a clear bag.
Correct. And we are ready for, we anticipate some increased phone calls. So we are prepared for that increase, and we can deal with it on a level with the individual, and they certainly can take it to the landfill as well. The landfill staff will just keep record of anyone coming in with the oops sticker starting the 27th, that they are allowed that one-time allowance.
Okay, so you really, if the first time you get an oops sticker, you have two options. You can keep it on your property, put it out the next week, and it'll get picked up so long as you have now a clear bag for that week's, or if you want, you can take it that one time to the landfill and leave it at the landfill. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, I got it. Good. Okay, any other questions on that, Collins? Yeah. Yeah, you gotta be able to see through them. Okay, so we discussed that. So the other one, we had 5B, I think that was pulled. Was that you, Anita? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank Mike for Mike Richardson for this report and for including the original letter. I think it's important that the Lakefield District Minor Hockey Association did receive a fulsome reply to their concerns. I did speak with Tanya Dunford, or I was messaging with Tanya Dunford, and she said the only comment with response to Mike's report, and this is where the funding issue kind of comes in, is that companies are less likely to want to sponsor the Lakefield District Minor Hockey Association, where their name is put on a signboard for $500 to $1,000 and then display it at the arena. So I think we need to continue to be cognizant of the fact that there's a lot of sports groups in Lakefield and out in Ennismore, and especially with the minor hockey or the minor sports, they do rely heavily on fundraising, and so we don't really want to do anything that's going to counteract that or put them at a disadvantage. So I just wanted to thank Mike for the report, and yeah, something to keep in mind for the future.
Thank you. Okay, and the last item was the letter from, I think, Municipal Affairs regarding site plans.
Right, yes, from Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And the purpose of it was to streamline development. And it says that it includes a site plan control guide. And if you click on it, it has all kinds of items there. And a lot of the things that we have actually discussed at this table in order to help developers and builders and so on. So I just wanted to ask Rob if this would be helpful to us, or if we have pretty much everything in this guide covered off on our own.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I mean, it is a good citizens guide, right? So a big part of it is introducing the whole site plan approval process to citizens. But in addition to that, it does also have a list of best practices that are being adopted by municipalities that I'm sure we could learn from. I mean, a lot of what they speak to, we already do, right? So we have a guide that's pretty detailed for the general public. We have a mandatory pre-consultation process that is intended to inform the process. Council has delegated authority for smaller projects to staff, which streamlines the process. But they've also speak about a few other things that we could consider. So I mean, I've read it. I'm sure Per and I will have a discussion about maybe things that we could learn from it. And if there are things that we think might be beneficial, we'll come to council with a suggestion.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We can have a motion to receive all the consent items. Okay, Anita, seconded by Donna. All those in favor? Okay, we have no petitions, so we will go to council portfolio updates. Donna.
Yes, thank you. Library usually meets on the same day as the council towards the end of the month, but I think we were a week earlier, so we're not having our library meeting until next Tuesday. So I have nothing new to report there. We had a recreation committee meeting a few weeks ago, and we discussed with the members the ice allocation policy and informed members of the secret garden project at Ennismore Waterfront Park. So they were interested in both of those. Police Services Board, there'll be no meeting until the end of October. And the link stats, I only have them for September the 15th. It is good news this time. Route 31, the Curve Lake to Lakefield route, 77 riders. Route 32, the Ennismore Bridge North, 29. And it's reported that the Route 32, the 29 riders is the highest ridership since the launch in May. And both routes have actually increased in ridership. And most of the common fares are the Trent students and the Link monthly passes. So it was very fortunate that we made that arrangement with Trent University. So that's being helpful.
Thank you, Donna. Next, Sherry.
Thank you, through you. Anita, Rob, and I were at the groundbreaking for the cottage toys a week ago, and they're building up Queen and Concession. I'm not sure if I mentioned this at the last meeting, but I'm mentioning it again. And it will see the continuation of the sidewalk. So that'll finally be done on Concession. Rota Spa is planning to rebuild, and our building and planning will be there with them along with our economic development officer to help them through that process. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Jerry?
The Lakefield Arena opened on Saturday with full bookings. Everything went well, apparently. 25th, the Ennismore Arena will open. All users have to provide a safety plan based on the September 22nd requirements regarding vaccinations and everything. And they're winding down the parks work now. And of course, winterizing and all that jazz will start soon. And Mike is fully staffed for all the winter operations in the arenas. Young Richard Dunford, they're busy getting the roads, finishing up the roads that need to be done for the winter. Micro surfacing, ditching, getting prepared for the onslaught of snow and the 4 o'clock starts for the guys. That's it.
Thank you. Need it.
Not a whole lot to report. We have a Heritage Committee meeting on Thursday. We have an Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow, so I have no news there. And just a quick note that places such as the Lakefield Legion are going to be adhering to the new public health guidelines with regards to requiring vaccination proof of vaccination. And I'm going to assume maybe the Golden Years Club as well. I'm not sure what their guidelines or policies are going to be regarding what the public health are saying.
Thank you. From my own perspective, we've seen a modest uptake in new COVID cases in our community. Report today with 90, we have 25 active cases. We have 360 though close contacts that people are having to track down. That's a labor intensive piece of work. The vaccines, we're 83.6 with at least one dose and 77.7 with 2 doses, either the population 12 and over. So, and that's made a little bit of progress since the government made the announcement that in order to attend certain places, you're going to be required to show proof of vaccination. The 20 to 40 age group is where the numbers are lower. So it's concentrated in that particular area. Folks, our numbers are really anybody over 60 has taken up vaccines in a big way. As Jerry and Anita both mentioned, it's the 22nd, which is tomorrow, that mandatory proof vaccination is required in certain settings. So, and that does affect the township in the sense of our arenas and other rentals that we may do. It just public, I'm sure they're aware of it now. Going to a restaurant will require, if you're going to sit indoors, to have a proof of vaccination. I'm just going to ask everybody to be patient. This is a different and big change, and it's the folks who are having to administer it are just be kind. That's what I'd say. Just be kind and be patient. They're doing as they're directed. So please bear with them. I wanted to mention that there's a new planning committee that's been established by the county, whose role it is to try to find, and it's interesting. We had a lot of conversations about that today, about finding streamlined ways that we can expedite the process. And so that's at the county level. I would be remiss if I didn't congratulate Michelle Ferrari and her success as becoming our MP. I'd also like to thank all of the candidates for putting themselves forward, and to thank Marion Monset for her service as our outgoing MP. And that's my report, everybody. And that takes us to, I guess we should do the bylaws before we go into close. So we have, we have the rezoning bylaw on boarding houses, the licensing bylaw on boarding houses. We have a trail committee member resignation, and we have the speed reduction on the line. Can I have a motion for those 4? Yes. Anita, seconded by Donna. All those in favor? Carried. And now we will go with a motion to go. Do we do the confirming motion? No, into close. Okay. Okay, Sherry, and seconded by Donna. All those in favor? Carried. Colleagues, we are now going to go into close, so we will retire to the other room.